Kapilaji, coming back to IGNCA, you have said in many of your writings and lectures.
I have to take my glasses off to get to IGNCA. That's
No, you've said that the arts in India, you compare it to DT with several arms but a single core. Of many armed DT with a single core. And how did you sort of translate that in the institution that you gave birth to almost?
Priya, to take your simile or your metaphor, I don't know whether I gave birth to it or not. But let me tell you that although the mother knows in the womb from where the germs are coming, but she doesn't know what kind of baby she will deliver. That's my case. I was given a one-line order. There shall be a Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, and Kapila Vatsyayan has been appointed as its director, equal to Secretary of the Government of India, whatever else, period. So my answer was कि भाई ये कहाँ होगा, किस पेड़ के नीचे होगा. This is exactly what I asked the former Prime Minister of India, Rajiv Gandhi ji. Then all that we don't know, you better find out. I had no office, I had no mandate, I had no committee, and it was and I had been secretary to the government, or certainly additional secretary. I walked out after 35 years of service because naturally I had no car. My own car had been stolen. My mother was in hospital with a stroke. So this was the situation. And coming to TV and where we are, I told you that I had done many programs with Jay Chandiram in the third floor of the old building, press PIP building. So I used to visit Jay in Vigyan Bhavan Annex sometimes. And I told her, मैंने कहा जय तेरे पास कोई कुर्सी वुर्सी है बैठने के लिए? And it was all painted blue. TV के लिए उसको ज़रूरत पड़ी होगी. And there was one chair, of course she had, and तो कहने नीचे से एक कुर्सी मंगवाते हैं. तो वो एक आदमी था, वो सिविल इंजीनियर था, उसके बाद उसने मेरे साथ भी काम किया. तो उसने कहा हाँ जी एक दो टूटी हुई कुर्सियाँ हैं वहाँ पर, वो ले लीजिएगा. साबत तो कुर्सी कोई है नहीं, लेकिन so this is where the IGNCA began.
Okay, in Doordarshan?
Not in Doordarshan, in the studio of Doordarshan in Vigyan Bhavan Annex.
Okay.
In half a room. I mean, it was Doordarshan's room.
Okay.
It was not my room. And there's nothing, it was not just there should be and there should not. तो भाई ये सेंटर होगा, कहाँ होगा, कौन इसको किस तरह होगा. But by that time, I had been, यानी मेरा अचार काफ़ी बन चुका था in the with that, then when Jaya left and I did get a room, I must say, and I got one PA, an old person. That was the total staff. They had no budget head from which I could get my salary, which I didn't get for 9 months.
Oh,
they didn't know where the center would be, I mean under which ministry it would be. So I was in the cabinet secretariat.
Most powerful place.
Most powerful place, undoubtedly. Under the staircase, I was given a chair there. And हमारे पास कमरा तो नहीं है, यहाँ बैठ जाइए, वगैरह वगैरह. It's a very I mean, interesting. And then one day I just sat down and wrote what the center would be on those blue sheets which I did get from the Government of India in my handwriting. Today I can't write, then I could write a great deal. And that was what was the genesis of what is called a cabinet note to the Government of India. I did go to then Cabinet Secretary, and well, I don't know much about this, but whatever you're saying, this is to answer your question, that there was no committee. Yes, there was Pupulji and Krishnadev, but there was no committee, no formal minutes.
Krishnadev.
Huh?
Krishnadev?
Krishnadev, he is from
Singdev.
Orissa.
Singdev.
There was no formal, yes, consultation you might call them. And then this cabinet note. And
no, but the fact that you wrote it out, what was the concept behind it?
I have no idea.
Oh, come on, Kapilaji, I'm sure you know what it is.
I have no idea at all.
You conceived it after having, like you said, achar pakkai thi aapki. So you obviously conceived it knowing that these are the areas that we need to work on.
मेरा अचार खाली ब्यूरोक्रेसी में नहीं पक चुका था. मेरा अचार cognitive enterprise में भी बच चुका था. In terms of both my reading and my own writing. My relationship with the scholars.
Exactly.
My relationship with field of the arts. My relationships with tribal India. My relationships with anything. And as I said, with engagement with all the arts in that way, I felt that it was, I didn't feel, as I said, I wrote that note, I don't know how that note got written, that these were the 5 fingers of creativity, and they had to be brought together. They had to be brought together, and this bifurcation, trifurcation, and identification of this art, that art, etc. And I was, that intellectually I was very clear in my mind that this center will not, and I still repeat when I see the work of the IGNCA post Kapila Vatsyayan, post, that it will not touch the sphere of the academies.
It will not.
It will not. It did not. I did not touch the performing arts. I did not touch dance, quad dance. We went into all kinds of things because it was not to duplicate the work of the academies.
Right.
Therefore, this and what we have spoken all through, I felt that there had been an overemphasis on performance or just festivals, or an over emphasis, let's say, on, and this is a word which should be taken out of the English language dictionary, showcasing. And that it should be solid primary work. I also realized through my research that there was such vast material lying both in India and abroad on the sphere of not the word arts, but the humanities and the fundamental sciences. So as I went along, I thought that it was a good idea to bring all this material to India. And this was also my training, as also my exposure, both as a person who had gone to several centers of what was called generally Indology in different parts of the world. And remember that I had also been in the Government of India Joint Secretary to the International Congress of Orientalists for 3 times. So I had that background in my mind, I suppose, when that note got written, that materials should be brought together at one place, which have been scattered all over the world, relating to India or relating to India and especially Asia or something like that. Therefore, the structure came into being. The structure being, yes, there was another happening, or I would say coincidence, that when I conceived of all this, Suniti Kumar Chatterjee had just died and he had left a note, Library for Kapila. I'd worked with him for 25 years in the International Congress of Orientalists. Hazari Prasad Dwivedi had told me one day, he said, "ये बच्चे लोग नहीं देखेंगे, तुम ले जाना ये किताबें." Then, so the Kalanidhi, as a concept, I thought what more we could have than begin with the personal collections of these great scholars whom I'd had the opportunity of knowing and being receiver of their largesses, their intellectual largesses. Krishna Kripalani collection, he was going to Shantiniketan. So these were things that happened. Elizabeth Bruner, I'd been great friends with Elizabeth, and she said, "Kapila, I'll die, what will happen to this collection?" I said, "You know, I'm making an institution, how about giving it to the institution?" So it was somehow, कुछ stars भी ऐसे थे, all these things came together.
You also got a very liberal grant for it. I mean,
No, just a moment.
Okay.
I didn't get a grant for, like that. We've just been talking, Priya, about the system of grants within the institutions in the autonomous bodies. And I had a limerick which I had made far back in the Government of India when B.K.R.V. Rao was. I remember coming to him one day in a big meeting and saying, "Oh, I've got at the bottom of how our administrative system works. The Government of India, through the Ministry of Finance, gives monies to the Government of India or the Department of Culture. The Department of Culture gives grants to the autonomous bodies. The autonomous bodies then give grants to cultural institutions. They in turn give grants to artists, and then it reverse order." So he said, "What did you say?" I said, "That is the exact system. And therefore I suggest, Mr. Minister, that we should get rid of the annual grant system." Because this is unhealthy, and the Government of India is then is accountable to the legislature. No one reads those reports, and it works backwards. Someone might pick up some report or something like that. Then there's a great debate in Parliament, but otherwise not. So and this was just my doing, for which I've been flogged, but I hold by this. My note said, that famous cabinet note on that bad blue paper, said that this institution will be given a corpus fund of 25 crores, and that's it. And the institution will run on its own from its interests or what monies it raises. And I told the former Prime Minister, and I hold by that, as also Shri P.V. Narasimha Rao, that I'll be seen dead if I come to you for a further penny.
Okay.
And I will raise. So I ran the institution for 14 years on A, the interest from the corpus fund, and B, not grants in cash, but in kind. That is equipment from the Ford Foundation, from Japan Foundation, from UNDP, and not from private this thing. The entire multimedia thing is being talked about. I had to argue with the UNDP for 2 years, 3 years, to give me a multimedia lab along with experts for the first 3 years. Similarly, all these manuscripts which have come from Staatsbibliothek, come from Indiensky Kunst, from Germany, from France, from etc., not from England, the British Library, the India Office Library. I got materials, and my argument with them was, in a very friendly way, was that all you guys have become scholars on India. Now it's time to pay up. So
Okay.
get to your governments and let me have copies of the material that you have. And of course I did facilitate. By that time I'd been for many decades in cultural diplomacy of a kind, so I'd had contact. I said, you pay your own institutions, and these institutions I don't want a penny in cash, but I want materials and copies of materials relating to India in the IGNCA. And that is how this great collection has been built of the microfilm and microfiche. The library came into being. Then it was, these things just happened. The structure with Kalanidhi being the library and the archives part, Kalakosh, the names are important, Kalakosh being really the cognitive thing. And there the most important 4 programs were worked out. Most important was to select about 100 terms, more than 100 terms, I don't forget the exact number, and pass them through primary texts relating from not only just Vedas and Upanishads, but from mathematics, from Ayurveda, from the different systems of philosophy. And then how does all this impact in the arts? You just said about a deity with many arms or something like that, rather the institution. The whole point is that this country had in its conception a multidisciplinary approach. And it is that approach which is being uncovered because intellectual life has been in terms of specialization. And I wanted to cut across that specialization to make bridges between the domains of the pure cognitive enterprises as also those which are what you would call in practice. So what did you do? You identified texts which were relevant to the arts, and then you identified texts. Now we are back to Sangeet Natak Academy. We in this whole field of effervescence of no one has ever looked at a text. And what we've tried to establish, for which I've been flogged again, Kapila ji has forgotten to dance chants and she's forgotten to count beyond 2nd century BC. अब वो खाली किताबें और manuscripts देखती हैं. We have established that there is an entire textual tradition to support the arts. And that textual tradition is not in one part of the country, it is in all parts of the country. And therefore the manuscripts of Orissa and people like Nilmani Mishra and Kedarnath Mahapatra and all these scholars who are outside the formal university system were identified. And work was taken from them, and I mean, one has got great compliment from the world over because it is like the Harvard Oriental series. Within India, I've got nothing but flogging, including I get it even now. कि कपिला जी इस सब का क्या फ़ायदा? मन का जी इस सब का कोई फ़ायदा नहीं, अभी तो खाली है कि 4 अडबू सीख लो और स्टेज पर आ जाओ, या 3 गाने सीख लो तो स्टेज पर आ जाओ, और तान आती हो या नहीं आती हो, आपको शुद्ध और तीव्र का पता हो या नहीं पता हो, लेकिन पढ़ना वढ़ना नहीं होना चाहिए. And this cleavage that has taken place within the arts and by what are known as between those who can sing or dance or paint and those who can write, this is a long history. It's not today, but it has happened. There's a wonderful text from Gujarat, you know, Sangeeta Upanishad Sarodhar. Where does he says, I'm writing this text, and it's a great text on music. And वो कहता है, I'm writing, but I don't know why I'm writing, because those who write don't sing, and those who sing never write, never read.
That's true. That's true.
So this is a long history of the break that has taken place in this country, for which no single person can be. And I thought that I was making this bridge after centuries. And
So
this,
what do you
not only this, going into the fields of science, then so this is a railway line now. Because, no, we'll give this, because the raw material in that railway line comes into Kalanidhi, which is the entire enterprise of the manuscripts, the books, the microfilms, the microfiche, the photographica. Then it is processed in Kalakosh division in terms of fundamental terms, in terms of fundamental texts, in terms of the writing that is criticism that has come. The parallel is the Janpat Sampada, which deals with everything we call folk tribal that way,
Okay.
which is going into the Lok traditions. And there the major word is Lok, the Lok, and not divided into just tribal or folk, which is the non-literate traditions. And so what was being explored in Kalakosh was to be explored also in Janpat Sampada. And then as a final product, it comes out as a multidisciplinary seminar or an exhibition, e.g. My Akash, e.g. Time, where from science
Yes.
to geometry was being, to everything was being explored. So this is a little difficult. However, I began by giving you the simile of the 5 fingers. Now those 5 fingers have to work in coherence, but there has to be a palm. And once you take that palm off, then the fingers can go all their own way or not go or not be able to move. Now this is a little complex, and I would hold the visionaries of that time, or me as the guard or whatever, to be responsible for the good as also the bad. It was not to be a showcasing, it was not to be holding seminars and without relationship to the main mandate. Yes, it had seminars, it had conferences, where anything from His Holiness the Dalai Lama to Kothari to Narlikar participated along with tribal Indians and so on. That was another once in 2 years or once in 3 years, or Prakriti or anything. But it was not to become another, again, back to no fund giving. And I told the Prime Minister, I said, I shall not be a fund-giving institution, and for which the artistic community has held me responsible कि हमें तो वहाँ आने नहीं दिया जाता है. Why? क्योंकि हमें इसको sponsor तो करें ना. And I have heard this criticism, absolutely bitter criticism, कि there's a kind of a closed shop where some people, that is because we are in Delhi, and in Delhi I will not go further.
But Kapilaji, one of the criticisms that you must have also heard is that Kapila Vatsyayan was very autocratic in the way she managed these institutions. So this institution in particular, what do you have to say about that?
What do I say? I was just being myself. If I was autocratic, too bad. I had a group of scholars, I had an international community with me. How does one answer a question when a certain evaluation is done of you? One is not really being in court where the judge is asking you questions and you have to defend yourself. I don't have to defend myself on any account. I'm myself. And each one of us have certain characteristics in operation. Some people are wonderful and they're both soft-spoken, and they would like to have a kind of a consensus with all kinds of people because they want to be either popular or want to be accepted. There are others who are moving with some conviction. So I belong to the second category, especially in the IGNCA. There was a conviction, there was an international community, a very high-level international community with whom I was interacting. I still am interacting. In fact, someone came from America yesterday and he said, "Oh, I remember this. I've never been to any such seminar which has had such one." And I didn't have an office. My office was in Vigyan Bhavan. Our first conference was in Conference Room 1 in IIC. And for 6 days, no one moved. And greatest scholars ranging from Panikkar to John Fritz to everybody was there, and they didn't. So if you have to create an ambience in which you're creating a dialogue across disciplines, across nationalities, you have to have a clear vision yourself, and be ruthless to yourself as to the others in terms of execution. Now, so if this means evaluatively autocratic, I have no answers. I don't feel that I'm in a dock where I have to defend myself. All right, I'm autocratic, thank you. Thanks for telling me so.
I am in the full bloom garden of the India International Centre, a favourite haunt for artists, intellectuals and movers and shakers. This is yet another institution that Kapila Vatsyayan has nurtured. Kapila ji, among the many institutions that you've set up, one of them is the Institute for Tibetan Studies. Can you tell us a little bit about how that originated, your interest, as well as the setting up of the institution? How did it sort of mesh?
Well, it's not a question of meshing. Let's remember that what happened in Tibet and how did His Holiness come to India. That is one part of the story, and how they were. But there is another part of this story which I could today share with you. And that is that it's not a question of my being interested in Tibetan studies, but I had the wonderful occasion to hear that great speech of Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, and where the Nalanda University, the old Nalanda University and the site of the new Nalanda University. But there was the question of setting up what was done, of a whole place with pillars. And I'll never forget the speech of the late Sri Jawaharlal Nehru, the Prime Minister. As we stood there, he made this great speech. Once upon a time, there was pilgrims came from all parts of the world to learn from India. And I hope that one day there will be another institution where people will again come. And this was long before His Holiness or what had happened in Tibet. This remained with me. Then years passed and nothing very much happened. And then whatever happened in Tibet, and I first met His Holiness in 1956 when he had come to attend the 2500th anniversary of the Buddha. And he had come with Panchan Lama. For me, it was something of such a great experience. And since one was involved as a factotum in Vigyan Bhavan, that was an engagement. then, as it happens in the Government of India, you have many assignments. I was in charge of the International Cultural Relations program, and then sometime I was shifted to what they thought were traditional institutions. Then I thought, this is my chance now to fructify Panditji's dream, nothing. And the Tibetans were there, they were as refugees and so on. So I'm a Banaras person also. I went to Sarnath and parked myself there.
How long for?
Oh no, not too long, but off and on and so on. And then there were these Tibetan monks, and all great scholars. They were also ill, and many of them had many. And they were in a monastery or a temple all huddled together. Yes, there was a nucleus of Tibetan studies in the Sanskrit University, but not much was happening. So my contribution, along with the late Gaurinath Shastri and others, was to extract them out of the Sanskrit University and to give them a place. And which was done with great difficulty, or I just found one day, I used to go for morning walk. I found a piece of land, I negotiated in my Banarsi Hindi, whether ज़मीन बिका हुआ या नहीं बिका, अच्छा बाबूजी बताओ. So I just gave him the bayana. And that was the beginning of that institution like that, of shifting. Over these years, of course, there were these great scholars, and who then became the Prime Minister after he left the institution, Samdon Rinpoche, whom you may want to interview sometime. Now he is in Dharamshala. He was the main person, but I did whatever, and that got me involved in two major programs in the institution. You see, as we know, when Nalanda was attacked, and thanks to Mr. Khilji or whatever, many of our manuscripts and Tibetan manuscripts were taken away, and they went to China, they went to Tibet. So much of that heritage was really in outside India and not, and the idea was that how much can we restore it back into its original, and that is, and also that the texts of people like Nagarjuna and Dharmakirti and so on were really known in their Tibetan versions rather than in their Sanskrit versions, because we had lost the originals. So a whole program of the restoration of that, and now they have over these decades they've restored nearly about 60 of such very major fundamental texts. Along with that, a very major program of a Tibetan Sanskrit, Tibetan English dictionary, and it has about 100,000 entries. Besides that, then of course students came, and they were first largely from the monastic order, but lay people, and then the doors had all the time it was negotiation or getting the advice of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and negotiating oneself through the corridors of the Government of India to see that this happens. So now they have students who are coming from also not only the Mahayan but the Hinayan streams, and from Thailand and from Burma and so on. It's a flourishing institution.
So these students, when they would pass out of a place like this, what would they usually take to?
Now that is a very good question, because that was, they would do that, where would they find placements? And so then we ran into another kind of a problem, this is recent, last 10 years, of certification, and how would the Indian universities accept them, or many of them have gone abroad, they're very well known and so on, But now after, and so you have to find what is known as an equivalence in degrees, etc. So that has been done. So some of the universities in India have departments of Tibetan studies, and that is where they are. Sometime you must go there and see it. I have
With
many,
you.
yes, I have many other memories of how there was great resistance from the Orthodox, so-called Brahminical.
Would you like to mention a couple and
And
how
what-
you negotiated that?
Negotiated that. They naturally, we have conservative, we are broad-minded, but we are also very narrow. And so I used to go out for a walk, and then one day some of these, I shouldn't use any adjectives, came and they said, हम आपका सिर फोड़ देंगे, आप यहाँ पर बौद्ध धर्म की पताका फैलाने आई हैं, तो वो तो शंकराचार्य ने उसका पलायन कर दिया था। तो मैंने कहा कि नहीं, तो मैंने कहा खोपड़ी फोड़नी है तो फिर मंदिर में ही फोड़नी चाहिए, बाहर क्या फोड़नी है। So these are part of doing something, but I learned much from them, whatever I could give, and that has, with that and otherwise, has been, I would say, my greatest graciousness that I have received from His Holiness Dalai Lama. And he is, of course, an exceptional man, one man of peace. And that is what little I could do for Tibetan studies. I also was responsible for another school of Buddhist philosophy in Ladakh, and that's also going on, of a different nature.
So you were talking about the involvement with Buddhism and Buddhist studies also. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I am an ignoramus, I don't know very much, but the fact that I was dealing with an institution and one knew about the great writers and seers and philosophers, whether it was Nagarjuna or Dharmakirti or any of the others. So naturally you got interested. I had another fortunate circumstance, and that is one of my uncles was a great scholar, and he done a wonderful work on Dignag. So it's not very much that one got into, but one became familiar with the whole range of Buddhist philosophy and epistemology, and that has also meant being in touch with scholars all over the world who are interested in this. And I would say that all that one has been is a facilitator and also a receiver. And I'm delighted that the institution has done so well. They have a massive library of microfilms and so on, apart from the dictionary projects and their publication project. And the campus is beautiful. I hope you can go there sometime from that thing and now it was with some persuasion that we had, it's open to women, and there is a women's hostel, and it's good. So my involvement, I would say, is an involvement at the level of first a facilitator and be a learner myself in the whole.
When you talk about the fact that they have this large library, getting together material must have been an effort, or it was already
No,
there?
this is, they didn't have a library like that. The library has been built up. And that is a
Stock that library
yeah,
must have been quite an effort.
It is quite an effort, and it is a very good library. And so it meant a lot of work. So it is. They had also a library of microfilms and microfiche. And now scholars from all over the world are coming there.
Okay.
Very flourishing institution.
Amongst the other institutions that you've been involved with and nurtured is the Center for Cultural Resources and Training. Now that's another kind of institution. very different from the Tibetan studies and Buddhist studies. So how did you get that going?
Well, that is another story, and this was, of course, we must remember that one can be functional within a system you're in, and but if you want to do things, you can persevere and get them. I thought, and this was largely, I owe this to the vision of Srimati Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, and to whom I'm indebted in more ways than one. She knew me since I was a baby almost, and nurtured me. But as I got along, and the interest in otherwise the crafts and so on, and also in education and also in the CBS, that there was a division, what has happened in India, which is between the head, hand and the heart and the mind. And all our education, we have all gone through that education of being absolutely in the written word, and from Shakespeare and Old English to whatever else, or but never thinking that the learning is from all these people who are working with their hands. The potter, the gardener, the carpet maker, the clay maker and so on. So I thought it would be a very good idea to have an institution where there would be a amalgamation and a creative dialogue between the hand and the logo of that institution is also the thinking hand. And so the idea was, one of the first things that I did was to get a potter from Jamna, and he said, come, and this is a teacher training program, and we had teachers and of course also some principals or headmasters of school. I said, now you'll teach them how to deal with the wheel. Okay. They were a ghas. There was almost that we're going back. We haven't come here to do a refresher course with a mere potter. And the potter said, माँ जी मैं क्या करूँगा इनको? मैंने कहा तुम सिखाओगे उनको, आप बताओ कि ये मट्टी कहाँ से आती है, मट्टी खाली जमुना की है या नहीं जमुना की थोड़ी है, इतना यहाँ से आता है, इतना वहाँ से लाता हूँ, उतना यहाँ से लाता हूँ, तब वो यही जो काले बर्तन हम लोग, तो तब मैंने कहा बताओ. So then I made the teachers do an analysis, chemical analysis of that matti. Well, that is the kind of bridge. Then after 3 or 4 days, he was so empowered, and he said, साहब आपका सेंटर ठीक नहीं है, आपका वजन ठीक नहीं है, ये चक्की नहीं घूम रही है. And so we did that with the potters. Okay. We did that with the carpet people. I made them do a whole thing on
which carpets?
Carpets. This was one of these people from Rajasthan. I think that carpets, not the Kashmiri. That is very intricate. That is true. But to do a geometry lesson and an algebra lesson, कि भाई कितनी knots बनती हैं. तो आप इसको बनाइए कि that is the cognitive part of it from the purely experiential part of it. Then one very interesting program was on puppets. This time puppets was on chemistry.
Chemistry?
Absolutely. How do two things get together and they fall in love and are in a talab, and then how does zinc or another metal merge with each other to bring about a compound. And do that in puppetry, in rods, or not traditional puppetry. So many. Then a resource center of slides was made, and what has happened over these years, I'm not in touch with them now, is that those slide boxes in which you could arrange it chronologically, you could arrange it by region-wise, you could arrange it by craft-wise, those got replicated. They're doing the things, and but it is important to note that this was a new initiative, and but running institutions also means that all institutions do get routinized a little bit, or when you have to. But there have been
How big was the institution in terms of manpower?
no. It began in half a room in Bhavalpur House,
Okay.
and now it has its own building in Dwarka, and it's a huge big building. And there have been different chairpersons and directors and so on. They've done good work, but one has to be warning that anything that you start should not get into box categories, or that you have to do so many refresher courses, or you have to do this. And that is a challenge for all institutions, how you don't. But as an innovative thing, and as something breaking the barriers between just written teaching in schools and not being open to the whole business of
Actually doing it.
actually doing it. And to do that, so I've taken that initiative in another way. Some years ago, we did a seminar in the IIC on education through the arts, where I had international people from New York and so on. That how does the arts become a tool of education rather than, you know, what everybody you go to school or college and then you do your music and dance, and there is no synergy between
Right.
them.
So when you did the seminar, what were the things that you brought together?
Well, what are the things that we brought together was I had people of the institute, Columbia Institute, and a person who was very much responsible and was Professor Prabha Sasrabudhe, who used to be the director of the Bal Bhavan long ago now. He is in New York. So we brought together people who would, for example, one person, she did a very beautiful job on how do you teach sociology as also mathematics through Phulkari.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, this was very good. And
So
music.
how
Well,
did-
well, I mean,
I
it is
suppose
not
it's
just
not for-
women's. It's not just a women's, because all of women's life is embroidered into the Phulkari. It is not just design as we think of that. The idea was also to place the arts within the social fabric, and then to see that the arts and education, a bridge was made. So there were 3 types of bridges that were conceptualized, and many programs were held on that, or in your own field. We all, I mean, people sing, that's fine, and or play or something like that, but very few know how, in that sense, that this faculty of music can be used in terms of the educational qualities. Now, can we break down those tonalities or microtones and so on, and teach कि भाई इसमें हो क्या रहा है, वो जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है. फिर नेचुरली इट इज़ समथिंग पीपल से कि जी गाना तो कर लेंगे, नाच भी कर लेंगे, इस सब में हम क्यों जाएं कि जी इसका अर्थमेटिक क्या है या इसका एल्जेब्रा क्या है. लेकिन उसका अर्थमेटिक और एल्जेब्रा तो है ना, उसके अंदर बंदिश में है, उसमें बढ़त है, उसमें वो सब है. तो उसका जो एहसास होना एज एन एजुकेशनल थिंग, because we have divided our subjects in a manner कि अर्थमेटिक को आप अलग कर दे रहे हो, अलजेब्रिक को अलग कर दे रहे हो, म्यूज़िक और इसको अलग कर दो, तो वो सेतु बनाने का काम वहाँ पर किया गया. और स्लाइड्स का तो अब सब जगह. And then they have regional centers, so you take on what is important in a region. I think they have one in Guwahati, they have one in South India. So you take local things and then see what is the kind of relationship that can be made between that local craft or whatever it is and the educational process, especially at the school level.
Kapila ji, you've managed to pack in so much in your life. You've written so many books, you've set up so many institutions, which meant that you had to deal with so many people. And you've done so much of research, and you're an eminent scholar. There's no, I mean, all of us are inspired by that. How have you managed to do all this and get through, things right from scratch?
I don't know, it just got done. I have not done anything. One is only an instrument.
And when there were delays and resistance, how would you cope? What would you tell yourself?
Nothing, you just have to deal with it. You have to deal with it. And if you were sincere to yourself, then some answers could be found. And one of the lessons learned is, whether one has been successful or not, is that don't have any ego like that, even if people have called me all that, and insolent or very self-centered. No, the whole point is that the work is more important and where you want to get rather than yourself. In that process, if you're hurt, and I've been terribly hurt, as you know, I've been thrown out of institutions that I have built, but never mind, because the work is more important than you are. And otherwise, I have to acknowledge that one has been so fortunate in having the parents that you had, who gave you all the encouragement, or dealing with उस ज़माने में कि जी आप डांस भी सीख सकती हो, things like that, swimming भी सीख सकती हो, hockey भी कर सकती हो, then you must be a real clod. So that's it.
But how would you manage your time?
टाइम हो जाता है जी, सुबह होती है, शाम होती है, जिंदगी तमाम होती है,
आप
लेकिन
अपनी
हो
रीडिंग
जाती
कब
है।
करती थी?
रीडिंग रात को, I mean when I was
You would come back from work and then you would read at night.
2-3 बजे तक.
Because a lot of your work involved a lot of reading.
Yes,
Sure.
that and library work and so on,
exactly.
and manuscripts
Exactly.
and so on. तो हो जाता है, if you want to, that's all
And
right.
yet you had so many friends, and you were all the time dealing with people. So,
हो जाता है.
so now how do you spend your day?
Now I have I shall publicly acknowledge this, I have an eye problem, which means that reading is a little difficult, and that is a disease on which there are no answers in the world, and this is an age-related thing. However, that hasn't deterred me, because I get audio of everything that happens in the IIC, which I can't attend, or lectures that and readings that I have, books, audio books, which are available, and my old favorites of T.S. Eliot's readings, or so on and so forth. So I'm fully occupied, and then of course whatever one does here in terms of the Asia project in IIC.
What is the work that is happening in the Asia project now?
No, it is international relations of kind, and the idea was that it has always been here, and earlier Dr. Karan Singh was in charge, and then Bora was looking after it. They produced. Then they did seminars and conferences on the regional basis. What we did afterwards is to do it thematically. For example, day after, we have a book release on Arabian Nights. Now this is going into the whole business of how does Arabian Nights emerge, what are its connections with Sanskrit literature, what happens in Persian, what happens in Arabic, how it goes. And so you call scholars, it's a question of mobilizing of great talent and putting it together. We did this Sui Dhaga, which you may have, we did indigo plant and production and trade, and then going on to Champaran and Gandhiji's protest march. So no one does things, you do single discipline things, or this is a multidisciplinary thing and cross-cultural.
That must be keeping you really busy and
Ah.
excited because that's what you love doing.
Right.
So Kapilaji, keep inspiring us with your scholarship and your passion for the arts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your graciousness in inviting me to live with that shit.
It's our honor.
Right.